To start things off in this video, I want to answer the question about mouthpiece placement, including where I place the mouthpiece on my lips. And we'll talk about creating the first sounds on the trumpet too. Now, before you click away, hang on a second and hear me out. There are some important considerations that I will address that even if you already know how to play, you may not be doing, and you may want to reconsider. I say that based on seeing players who don't do some of what I'm going to talk about in this video, and I can see, and more importantly hear, how it's negatively impacting their effectiveness in their playing. Basically, they're getting in their own way by missing some things. So in this first video, we're going to talk about our chops, our embouchure, and we're going to talk about setting ourselves up to play more easily and effectively. All right, so let's take a moment and start at the beginning and get on the same page with mouthpiece placement and your approach to playing. Then we'll be set up for diving into developing our tone production. If you've watched any of my other videos, you may have already heard me say things about letting the body learn. And I really believe that. And we need to get out of its way and let it figure out things that we're trying to do. Figure out what we're trying to learn, what we're asking our body to do. And there is definitely some of that with our embouchure and producing tones on the trumpet. Probably a lot, actually. Because when you first start playing the trumpet, well, unless you played another wind instrument, it's a pretty new thing for your lips and your body. I mean, really, putting a hunk of metal on your face and blowing through it? Really? But obviously, from seeing all the other people who can play the trumpet, our lips can get used to it. And not only that, they can develop the delicate response needed for soft, gentle lines of music. And they can develop the strength and stamina needed to play loud and or high lines of music. So, answering the first question, where does the mouthpiece go and how do you make a sound, there are two things. There's the mouthpiece on your mouth and there's the air going through. So first, we're going to talk about placement. The goal is centered and centered, above and below the lips, which end up inside the cup of your mouthpiece. You don't want the rim of your mouthpiece to be on your lips. You want, if this was my mouthpiece, you want it on the outside of the lips. Mouthpiece, centered on your face, and centered on your lips. One note, your dental structure is going to play a role in the position of the mouthpiece on your face. That is to say, your front teeth, the structure underneath and behind your lips. In my case, I feel the mouthpiece sitting around my front teeth, kind of. But your goal, whatever your dental structure, is as close to centered as you can, and importantly, with your lips inside and the rim on the skin above and below. And you could think of forming the sound and then putting your mouthpiece there. So you're going to do a and it goes on your face. With your mouthpiece, you make a seal. So I couldn't make the seal with my fingers, but you can see the placement. You get the mouthpiece in there, and now because it's full, you get the seal. Now we move on to blowing through into our instrument. And this is important. Once you've got your mouthpiece in position, then you open the corners for a breath while you keep the top and the lower lips engaged with the mouthpiece. So keeping this part engaged, you'd pull back. With the mouthpiece, over here, goes on top. I think, See, I pull back, but I don't lose this position. I keep it. Keep that position. And ultimately, you're going to get that. Well, hopefully you'll get that. It's actually a little easier with the trumpet. And you blow. Your mouthpiece, when you put it there, creates the seal that you need. So what you have to do is apply a little bit of pressure, but just enough to get the seal. The other side. So normally we breathe through our mouth, but if you're having trouble keeping the position of your lips on your mouthpiece and getting that to all work, having trouble getting the hang of it with breathing through your mouth, then what you could try doing is get everything into position and breathe through your nose and do that a few times to get used to it. And then you could go back to breathing through your mouth. And if you need to, alternate between the two of them. I'll show you what I mean. Get ready. Breathe through the nose. Done. You can alternate back and forth like that. It can really make a difference and help. Moving on to some important considerations and a couple of questions. Now, first of all, if your sound flutters and you're not really getting a sound, check the seal, but also make sure that you are blowing with a steady airstream. Think about filling up the trumpet with air, really full. Take big relaxed breaths and aim to fill it all the way up. Imagine a sailboat, if you can, and the sails just sort of fluttering in the breeze. A little bit of wind's moving them, but not much. And is the boat going anywhere? Not likely. What does it take for that sailboat with its semi-fluttering sail to actually move forward? It needs air that steady, fills out the sail enough to move it. And our lips are the same, essentially. It's the same concept. Steady airstream is going to make them vibrate in the breeze. Basically, they respond to the air. If there's no air, well, you have no sound coming out of your trumpet. Now, number 2, and this is the one I've seen experienced players get wrong. I've seen players do different things with their mouthpiece when they're breathing to play. Our goal is that the last thing you do is breathe. But some people will breathe first and then bring their trumpet onto their face to play. If you do that, you're going to build up tension in your body that you don't want to be there. You want to be relaxed, and like I said, the last thing you do is breathe. So everything gets ready, you're in position, you relax, you breathe, and you play. It's in that order, no other order. In, everything's ready. 2, breathe. And blow. So that I've definitely seen some experienced players changing the order or doing things with their mouth, and it's interfering with your ability to play as relaxed as possible. And you want to play relaxed. Otherwise, you're getting in your own way. Moving on, 2 questions can come to mind. The first one, what about pressure? Like, how much? Well, I'm going to say you don't want to use any more than you need to create that seal I talked about with your mouthpiece. Less is better, but I've always found that I still get a ring on the top of my lip after I finish playing. I've tried experimenting with less pressure to the point of losing the seal, but I still need to maintain a seal and I get a ring around my lip at the top. I've seen people who seem to be able to play with little to no pressure, but, well, you'll have to talk to them on how they do it. And in the meanwhile, use enough pressure to seal the mouthpiece on your lips. That's all I can say. Second question, to buzz or not to buzz on the mouthpiece as an exercise unto itself? Well, there are definitely differing opinions about mouthpiece buzzing, as in practicing by playing lots of buzzing on your mouthpiece. A lot of teachers say to do it. They say there's value in it. Stuff like that. I'm not one of the proponents of a lot of mouthpiece buzzing. It's not an exercise method I've used much myself, nor have I suggested it to students that I've taught. I also don't really recall getting much instruction about buzzing from my teachers. Maybe I'm just forgetting it, but I don't recall a lot. If I do buzz on my mouthpiece, it's more likely to be because I'm going somewhere and I can't play much before I get there. I'll pull my mouthpiece out on the way and I'll buzz a little in the car trying to warm up. And there was one time I remember when I was much younger. I couldn't practice any longer because my brother needed quiet so he could study. So I went downstairs to our downstairs bathroom, sat on the toilet lid, and with buzzing my mouthpiece, I practiced some tonguing that I was working on. But as a rule, I don't do a lot of buzzing. My preference is just to play on the trumpet. Play here, find my tone, work on my breathing, work on my relaxation, and all of that. I want to do everything on the trumpet because, well, that's where I need it. And so far, this approach has served me well, and I think I'm playing okay, and I played okay before when I was playing much more, without doing a lot of buzzing. Maybe that'll change sometime, but I'm not sure what benefits I'd see from doing it. But the way my mouthpiece alone responds compared to how the trumpet does is why I like to go straight to the trumpet. Now that you know where to place the mouthpiece, you're getting used to it being on your face, and you're getting a sound out of the trumpet with that steady airstream, which, by the way, when I first started, I couldn't play it when I first started. But now that you're playing the trumpet, because you are, I'd like to share with you what I consider is the most important music to play next for building your trumpet playing foundation and developing your tone. I've been playing it almost daily for 40 or so years, and it comes from a legendary trumpet teacher from Chicago. I'll talk about it in the video that's right up here, or will be as soon as I get it done. If you found value in this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. That's it for now. See you in the next video.